Hi everyone, this is Mama Dr. Tochi with a follow-up on the other video I made on the so-called Yoruban religion. It's a great day out here today. It's not so hot, it's not so cold, so I figured why don't we have a little bit of change of scene for today's class. So as usual, get your notepad, get your pen, get your snack, get your drink. And in today's class, we're going to talk a little bit more about the deities, some African deities, and I'm going to compare and contrast a couple of them and also some of the practices, so that if you are involved in these African indigenous spiritual practices or religions, that you are aware of what you're doing or what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, so go get your stuff and we'll take it away. Thank you for coming back. Thank you to all my subscribers. Thank you to all the members, financial members of the Dr. Tochi family. I couldn't do this without you. You are the reason why I am doing this. You are the one who give me the inspiration to do this. Remember to give me a thumbs up if you enjoy this kind of content, because it encourages me to produce more content like this. So let's get into it. In the previous video, I talked about the so-called Yoruban religion, letting you know that there is no religion called Yoruban. There is a tribe in West Africa called Yoruba, and they speak Yoruba, and they have Yoruba culture and customs. They have traditions that are unique to their tribe. However, there is no religion known as Yoruban. Unfortunately, we see this terminology used quite a bit in this part of the world, in the United States, and also other parts of the lower North America and also in Central America. Understand that the slaves that were taken away from West Africa, who were from the Yoruba tribe, did take elements, aspects of their religion with them. It wasn't always, and let's state this very clearly, it's not always that we should assume that the people who were enslaved were the priests and the priestesses. Usually the priests and the priestesses tended to escape from slavery. I know that is not spoken about a lot, is not talked about a lot. People just assume, well, all of us who came as slaves were descended from kings and queens. The reality of the matter is that not everybody who was enslaved was of a royal nature, of the priesthood. Not all of them were, and it would be fallacious to just assume that because you're a descendant of a slave or descendant of slaves, that you automatically came from a royal family, descended from kings, queens, or even from the priesthood. That's not how that worked. Okay. So again, let me clarify that. Okay. Not everyone who came from slavery, not everyone whose ancestor was enslaved was a king or a queen. Not everyone was descended from the priesthood, because a lot of times when you talked about the people who got enslaved, the royalty, the kings, the queens, the powerful people, the wealthy people, the priests, the priestesses, they usually were not enslaved. It was mostly the common masses who were enslaved. I know it's common in the narrative now to, and I understand where that comes from. We need to build up our self-esteem, and rightfully so, but sometimes people will say, well, I'm descended from kings, I'm descended from queens, I'm descended from powerful magicians. I'm descended from priests and priestesses. Unless you have DNA proof that links you to a particular family that is a royal family or a priestly family, you really want to be careful about saying that. That's all I'm trying to throw in there, okay? So, knowing that it was mainly the masses, it was mainly the ordinary people. I'm not saying that there were absolutely no royalty, absolutely no priests and slaves. That is not what I said, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm repeating it. But the proportion of royal people and priests and priestesses who were enslaved was very small compared to the major the major population of people who were enslaved, who were ordinary people. So the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because the ordinary people who were enslaved and took elements of their religion with them were not necessarily experts in their religion. Just think about it this way. If you took away the pastor of a church, okay, who had probably gone to Bible college or Bible school, had some special training, and you talk to that pastor who had that Bible college training, you more often than not, you will not get the same level of expertise in Bible knowledge as an ordinary congregant who attends church. Okay. So remember that the slaves who were exported to the New Americas and elsewhere took the information, the daily rituals, the daily knowledge they had about their indigenous religions with them. There were many secret rituals and knowledge that they did not take with them because they were not privy to this knowledge. I know that what I'm sharing here is not popular. I know that some people are probably going to say, what do you mean? So what is it that we're learning? No, information has trickled down since then. But understand that a lot of the people who got enslaved had about as much knowledge of their religion as any other person who participated in this religion. Why is this important to know? It is important to know because if you're going to follow a particular religion, you want to deal with the experts in that religion. If you're going to deal with a spiritual practice, you want to go back to the roots, the foundations of it, so that you have a comprehensive understanding of what it is you're practicing and what it is you're professing and what it is that you are following. Okay. So today, when we look at in the so-called New World, we have religions or spiritual practices such as Santeria, Candomblé, Lukumi, Malongo, and there's a whole bunch of them there that are out this way. When you come to the southern part of the USA, you have hoodoo, you have voodoo. And even like in the Hispanic speaking areas where there was a lot of intermingling, you have the Portuguese mixing with the Spanish, mixing with the French, mixing with the English speakers, mixing with the Africans. And so you see there was a soup pot, a bubbling soup pot, if you will, of DNA going on there, and people bringing in all these influences, throwing in a whole bunch of Catholicism in it as well. So again, we should be very careful about just waking up and just saying, you know what, my heritage is African, I have some black blood, I have some African blood, therefore let me go to the local botanica, or let me see, you know, what's ongoing in the community, and I'm just going to go and follow that. You need to be aware of what you're following and be very clear as to whether it is compatible with your DNA and if it is going to be helpful to you. Now, If you choose to join these spiritual practices or religions because you feel that they resonate with you, so be it. There's nothing wrong with that. You can go there and enjoy it, participate in it. But if you're looking from a more practical perspective that you want to use your participation in the spiritual path to achieve certain things in your life, then that's when you need to be a little bit more particular. Now, the other thing is when I look at the so-called Yoruban religion, which is really a religion and spiritual philosophy, there's this conversation about orishas. Okay, who and what are orishas? Orishas, in a nutshell, are deities. These are spiritual entities that are far above the level of what we will call an elemental spirit guide. What is an elemental spirit guide? You're looking at water guides, earth guides, fire guides, and air guides. Okay, these are deities with more power and more reach and broader responsibilities. So instead of having a personal deity that is responsible for a person, just like your guardian spirit or your guardian angel, or have one that is responsible for a family, which are like ancestors, you're looking now at a higher level entity that is responsible for a tribe. So it's not just for a village or a few villages or a family, a few families. You're looking at deities that have responsibility over tribes, people with a common DNA. So do you see how important this is? Okay, because again, there's this conversation where people say, well, I belong to Ogun, I belong to Obatala, I belong to Yamoja, I'm part of, I am under Oshun, I am Oya's child, I am this person's child or the other person's child, when they talk about that Ifa corpus of deities. But what is the reality of it? Does Obatala belong to you? Do you belong to Obatala? Or is Obatala responsible for the tribe and those that share that DNA? Okay. Now, of course, people do these divinations and they say, okay, the divination shows that, Obatala is over my head, Obatala owns my head. Very well and good. When you pray to Obatala, what happens? What direct communications have you had with Obatala? When we really start digging into what is operational here, you now see that there is a conflation. In other words, a putting together, an amalgamation or joining or making things mean the same when they're not the same. Again, there is a difference between the priest and the masses. When you are a priest, when you are a priestess, yes, these deities, quote unquote, own your head. And what is meant by owning your head is that you serve them, you are an intercessor between that deity and the masses. You interpret, you receive and interpret messages from this deity on behalf of the masses. That is not the same. That is not the same as you being in the privacy of your own home saying, well, I'm under Obatala and Obatala owns my head and I'm going to be offering sacrifices and prayers and whatnot to Obatala. Big difference. Not everybody is a priest. Not everybody is a priestess. You see where this is going? Not everybody's destiny. It's not everyone is destined to be a priest. Not everyone is destined to be a priestess. I know that it makes for good conversation. It makes for good image for someone to go for divination and they're told, oh yeah, okay, you're a priestess for Shun, or you're a priest, a Babalawo for Batala, or you're a priest for Ogun. When in reality, you are not a priest, you're not a priestess, you're not of that lineage. It is not part of your DNA, but you are part of the bigger DNA that is protected by that deity. So in other words, you can appeal to the deity, but if you need a specific work done for you by that deity, you would have to go through a priest or a priestess who has been spiritually authorized. Now, what is spiritual authorization? Spiritual authorization comes through lineage and comes through initiation. Well, Dr. Tochi, I got initiated into my Yoruban religion, or I got initiated into Ifa, and I was told that Obatala mounted my head, or Shango mounted my head. I am told that my implements, I am Ogun's son, I am Ogun's daughter. I am told that I work with a Shu. A Shu is the one that I'm supposed to be giving offerings to. Are you a priest or a priestess for a Shu? Are you a priest or a priestess for Obatala? Where is your lineage? Because there are lineages for this kind of thing. And it is the lineage, the DNA of that lineage that authorizes you in spirit to do work for that deity on behalf of people. Again, I know that what I'm talking about here is not popular. I know that there are people who are going to argue about it. But again, remember what we discuss here is practical spirituality. What works. And it's very simple. When you do your works, your rituals, do they manifest? If you say, okay, I am initiated into this deity or that Ifa deity or that other deity, how well are your spiritual works manifesting? How well are your spiritual works for other people manifesting? That is a difference. And you know, you need to be honest. Okay? You need to be honest. When someone comes to you with a serious life problem, or you have a serious life problem, how easy is it for you to bring forth a manifestation or a solution? Are you working on this thing for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, waiting for solutions? Or are you doing what you need to do and you're getting your results in a week, 2 weeks, in a month, with a clear sign that it is that deity that has responded to that issue? You see, in spiritual practice, there's sometimes we will do work, but the real work is done by the spiritual crew of the person we did the work for. Not by our spiritual crew, but the spiritual crew of the person we did work for. And you need to have knowledge and experience to be able to differentiate that. There are sometimes, as well, as a spiritual practitioner, you could do work for somebody and their spiritual crew prohibits that ritual or that work from succeeding for that person for a variety of reasons. Now, if you're properly initiated and properly authorized, you should have the ability to take care of that objection. You should have the ability to overcome that objection, or to address the objection of that person's spiritual crew to the spiritual work you're trying to do. Is as simple as that. So you see, this issue is not as simple as it appears. Again, yes, it sounds, exotic. It sounds wonderful to say, well, I am part of this, I went to this religion, especially Ifa, and it was great. I can always go to the store, buy my multicolored candles. I am Oya's daughter, or I'm Yemoja's daughter. I wear white, I wear yellow, I have an altar covered in white and gold, and all these things. That's not what does the work. It is the authorization as a priest or priestess that enables you to do the work. So again, if you're having challenges, if you're part of that Ifa tradition, you have chosen it, I encourage you to start looking abroad. Are there other African indigenous religions or spiritual practices that are similar to what you're doing, but will give you the results that you want? In the previous video, I gave an example of a Batala, or was it Shango, and Amadioha. Shango in the Yoruba culture, and Amadioha in the Igbo culture. Similar deities, similar functions, but there are one or two things that might be different. But one works better with the Igbo DNA, and the other works well with the Yoruba DNA. I think we need to be careful about aligning ourselves just for alignment's sake. And I also speak from personal experience. I found out that when I was aligning myself with similar spiritual practices and paths than the one I was supposed to be in, I was getting a trickle of results, a trickle of influence, a trickle of manifestations. But when I then got into the right path, spiritual practice that I was supposed to, it was like the floodgates opened, the doors were flung open, and I was able to do things like the messages were coming, information was coming, everything was on point, everything was just like pump, 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 pump. And I didn't have to struggle as much to get the work done. So it's getting a little bit dark out here. This thing is supposed to have a light. Oh well. At least the twilight is making my complexion look a lot more exotic, wouldn't you say? We try to have fun here. So again, be aware of what you're getting involved in. There are sometimes people will go for these initiations and they say they're being mounted by the deity. They're they go for voodoo or hoodoo, or they go for some initiation and they abandon themselves to it and they say they get mounted or possessed. Are you sure what you're getting mounted by? Are you sure what you're getting possessed by? If you're not meant for the priesthood, it is not a good idea to allow yourself to get possessed by any entities. Point blank, period. If you're not meant to, if you're not clearly, that lineage is not there, you need to be very careful about allowing yourself to be mounted or possessed by entities. No matter how well you think of these entities, no matter what somebody somewhere has told you, look, you're the child of Ogun, child of Obatala, child of Shango, child of Shopona, child of whatever, child of Eshu, you ought to be very, very wary of that. Because again, if you're not spiritually authorized to be possessed or to to be connected to those entities in that intimate manner, you might be doing more damage to yourself than you can imagine. And it will require a lot of spiritual work to correct that. Sometimes, even on Facebook groups, and in other forums, I read people saying, oh yeah, I belong to Ogun, and sometimes I'm in bed pleasuring myself and Ogun comes to me and we make wild love. Really? 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 Yamoja comes to me and we have we pleasure ourselves and we love on each other and all night long. Really? That's not the function of deities. That's not what they do. Don't get seduced by popular stories, narrative. Don't get seduced by things that sound exotic but are not spiritually right. It is not the function. It is not the function of deities. Remember again, I said the deities are in charge of tribes. It is not their function to have intimate relations with you. If you or somebody around you is there saying, oh yeah, we come and we pleasure ourselves and we're intimate, and and anytime I want to do this and I'm laying out this and I'm wearing these special lingerie and and I light these candles and I get into my bed or get into wherever and I'm doing whatever and I'm using these bodily fluids to do all these things, my dear one, you are practicing something else. You are totally practicing something else. Well, today's class has been a little bit long, but I hope it's been worth it to you. Again, your comments, discussions, questions are welcome in the comment section below this video. Oh my God. Look at that. So if I wave my hand, it gets lighter. Oh, look at that. So maybe I should hold my hand up here so it gets a little bit lighter. Anyways, we love to have fun. So we end today's class with our invocation. We're thankful to our Creator, our guardian spirit, our guardian angels, our ancestors, our spirit guides, prophets, messengers, all those in the unseen realms who take care of us, protect us, teach us, and love us, and counsel us. May we never be misled by the things that will harm us physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Ashe.